We'll just wait till the participants. We've just turned it live. We'll just wait while they've come on board at the moment. They just filter in for a couple of minutes. So we'll just wait 1 minute. Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Who's just jump in the chat and or put your hand up in the Q&A and just say if you can hear me or you can't hear me. Also, make sure as we go along today, if you have any specific questions to any of the panelists or even to myself, put in the Q&A. Otherwise, jump in the chat and I'll answer some questions in the chat as well. I'm happy for a bit of chatter and stuff. This is going to be a great topic today. So we're just about, let's give it another 30 seconds while they filter in. And Laura, you got it ready to press record in a sec, if you haven't. Hey, John Gowing. My good friend John Gowing's joined us. Already recording. Okay, thanks, Laura. We might jump into the session then. So we'll kick it off now. We'll just go on to the next slide. Welcome everyone to today's fortnightly partner solution series. I'm really looking forward to this one. We've been exploring a few different topics over the last couple of fortnights, and we're going to keep deep diving into ones which not only help all our accountants and advisors out there as part of our network, but our great LightYear Docs network and I Love Accounting, but also in particular, and I think this one's a great one for you, all of your clients. Whether they're small, medium, or large businesses, and I've a great panel here today. So joining me today is Clarkson, and I've got Stephen Forth, the CEO, and Philippa Neliski. I've just said that wrong. Sorry. That'll do, and I'll get that right soon. And she's the Chief Growth Officer of Claxon. So welcome, guys. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
As everyone's aware, I hold these fortnightly partner solutions. I won't jump into too much about that, but there's a slide up there at the moment that sort of runs into them. It's a growing series. It's getting out there. It's great. We're bringing real life tech stacks and partners to the table that helps you with your practice management, your clients, great solutions for them. And in particular today, we're talking about transformation through digital. So without any further, I'd just like to introduce, as I gave a little brief there, I've got Stephen Forth, CEO of Claxon. Stephen, if you'd love to just run through, guess your history. It's great. As I said just before at the start, I've got two of probably the biggest hitters in this area in the country, if not the globe. So sitting at the table, we're sitting in a great environment inside Claxon. We've got a webcast podcast room. We've got sound engineers and techs. If you jump on LinkedIn, you'll see some of the pictures. Feel quite fortunate today. So, Stephen, give us a rundown about yourself.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for the opportunity to have a chat about what I think is a really interesting topic. Look, my journey throughout my career has been about transformation in itself. So I've been paralleling what I've looked for from a career point of view to what I've been implementing with all my clients over quite a lengthy period, over 30 years in this business. The transformation is really probably more about business transformation for me rather than is about digital. You know, everyone's sort of talking about digital transformation at the moment, but it really is about how you transform businesses.
Yes.
So each of the clients that I'll talk about today, and there's some really great relevance for your audience, certainly across the accountancy area. And one in particular will be the inland revenue work I've done in New Zealand, but also I'll talk about Lloyd's Bank in London. I'll talk about some more local businesses. Philippa will cover off some as well, what's worked, what hasn't worked. Some of the insights I've learned from 30 years of doing this. Yeah. Probably the last 15 years has been about transformation. So I've had a career of understanding the creative product, brand purpose, moving to technology space, moving to experience space, and now, of course, in media. So I think I've got a fairly good background to talk with some degree of expertise, but we all know that COVID's changed the world. We all know that the business is changing at a dramatic pace. For me, it's all been about being sort of on the edge of what has changed in the marketplace. I love looking at what business is doing, looking at streaming services at the moment, the whole Netflix area, the whole area of what's happening within that disruptive industry. So I'm a sponge as such. I love looking at information, how I can help clients and with their own transformation journeys. So that's kind of not really a short story, but it certainly is my background.
Yeah, and so I mean, certainly, Stephen, we've got the slide up on the screen at the moment, but you've got a really impressive a number of brands and industries on there that you've worked with. So we're quite fortunate to have you here today. So
thank you.
And Philippa, tell us a bit about yourself. What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Chief Growth Officer of Claxon. My previous history was, my, I guess, most notable career was 10 years at McCann, which is the 4th largest global creative agency.
Wow.
In Queensland, we were full service. So from a point of view, we might have done just perceived to be just creative, but we did integrated media, PR, and essentially problem solving is my biggest point of difference. So what's our clients' biggest issues and problems, and how do we solve them through a creative lens? That doesn't mean that your output is an ad. It could mean it could be something entirely different. So Stephen and I are very much aligned in terms of business transformation.
Yes.
We might come get a brief from a client that might be about a poster campaign, but actually in how do we solve the actual issue in its entirety, and a poster isn't going to do that. So that's kind of the lens that we have here at Claxon, is what strategically can we do for businesses that has a growth impact.
Yes.
And has essentially an effective transformation on their bottom line as well. I previously had a little bit of I think it was about almost a year at one of my old clients' businesses when I left McCann, and that was fun. But I'm really happy to be back at agency, which is absolutely what suits me. And I've got a lot of amazing background in terms of what I've done for each client, as well as the McCann business in the Queensland market as well. So we can talk a little bit more about that in detail when we get to some of the questions, maybe. That's
fantastic. Yeah, and we'll give a bit of a background, a little bit about Claxon does and stuff, and where Claxon is at the moment in the marketplace, and where it's headed as well for everyone listening today. So, so Stephen or Philippa, who is Claxon? What do they do?
Perhaps you can answer that.
Sure. So essentially, our agency is founded in growth. So
Yes.
Every client that comes to us, or prospective client, what are your I guess biggest issues? What are your growth goals? What are your KPIs? And how can we help you achieve those goals and hopefully exceed them? That's essentially what we do. Some of the obviously core service pillars that we have are SEM, SEO, paid social, digital transformations as well, also consulting. As well as that creative content. There's a lot of different service pillars we have, but it's essentially at the end of the day, it's about how do we grow your business.
Okay, and just for everyone listening, I mean, just to dumb it down a bit, what is SEM and SEO? And...
Oh, sure. Sorry, I was using too many acronyms.
No. I've been doing a bit of work with you guys, so I understand what it is, but it'd be just great to give a bit of an idea of what that actually means.
Yeah, absolutely. So most of our media buys are digital focused. We obviously do also do above the line, but basically paid media. So search engine marketing is any kind of Google product, or if it's a search, whether it's Google, Yahoo, Bing. Does Yahoo even exist anymore? I don't even know. Otherwise paid social. So Facebook advertising, TikTok advertising, whatever is relevant that's going to reach the right audiences and customers that we're trying to target, whether it's, lead generation, depends on the KPI and platform. Maybe Stephen can explain it in a
Yeah, we can go through platform a bit later. Yeah. I think that part of our certainly growth area is to move into some of the areas that can impact a lot of your clients, Michael. Maybe where it's in the crypto world, maybe giving some advice into what the impact of business is. Kind of these are the areas I think we will definitely move into.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's a lot of growth within that.
Yeah, and we'll probably jump into it later, but do you find that when clients do come, or a new prospective client comes to you, that they often have used like a slapstick sort of approach to things in terms of digital, or their marketing in terms of, social, or not really sure what they do? They have a go at it and they think it fails because they just haven't done it right, or they're not...
Absolutely. And I think if I look at the first question you're going to pose to us about boards, I think in my experience, there's a rush. There's always a rush to get somewhere.
Yes.
Rather than thinking through what the real strategic approach to business is, what the impact upon business is. So even to your first question about what's the agenda for boards of management, no different to clients that come to us, with potential clients that want to rush to get to a result. There's a bit of thinking required before they get there.
Yeah.
And I think that's that pivoting moment to ensure that the right investment, the right sort of skill structure within businesses is attuned to that objective they want to achieve.
Yeah, definitely. And just for everyone listening there, obviously there's a lot of LightYear Docs members and users on today's webinar, but LightYear has just recently engaged Clarkson. We're just in the early stages of that process, and and we're really looking forward to it. But we're, the big brief that we're working on at the moment, which I know everyone's aware about, is LightYear Docs 2.0 and the launch of that. So we're going through a discovery session and building out our strategy behind that. And I know Ash and myself and the team are really excited about where the initial stages we're going through and where we're headed in relation to that. And I've been using Claxon for a little while now in relation to a partner solution that everyone's aware of, our Love Accounting, in terms of our employee share plans and our offshoring and outsourcing solutions we provide. And we're getting really good traction through that. I was just speaking to Stephen and Philippa before. Over the weekend, I picked up a significantly large client, probably the largest ESOP that I've seen in a long time, and it's going to be a great job and to work through. And it's about a 12-month rollout and a significant thing. And that's come purely from the work that I've been doing with Clarkson over the last couple of months. So it's really good to get some great traction. There's been a number of them, and they're starting to build. And it's been a build up of process, and I was aware of that at the start, but it's been great, and it's good to see some results and stuff. So we might just jump into the questions we've got today. This is going to be quite an interview type process. So I'll stop sharing. I have stopped sharing my screen, haven't you? So sorry. So Stephen and Philippa, why should digital transformation be high on the agenda for boards and their management teams?
Yeah, I think this is probably the one of the key questions that it's a starting point. And I've dealt with a lot of boards, a lot of C-suite. It really, as I talked about before, there's a bit of a rush to get into transformation, but really you need to step back and say, what is the transformation agenda? What does the board want to achieve? And the management through transformation. And I think that question often doesn't get asked. It's like, oh, we got to get into digital transformation. Sure, we need to get into it. But if boards are not thinking about it now, then they're a long way behind. And as you know, in business, if you are behind the 8 ball, well, if you look at it from a wave point of view, you can be in front of the wave and be smashed, on top of the wave and ride it, or you can be behind the wave. It's hard to catch up.
It is, yeah.
So the investment required to catch up is quite considerable. So I'd be surprised if most boards are not already thinking about it. But like anything, it really is, what's the agenda? What do they want to transform within a business? It's not just digital. No. It's what does the business need to do to transform, and who's going to be the evangelist? What are the structures and prioritization? Prioritization is one of the key aspects. If you've got 5, 6, 7 people on a board, everyone has a different agenda.
Yeah, correct.
We need to have a website. We need to be a better website. We need to have a mobile phone app. We need to have this and that. So what does those priority look like? And of course, therefore, the investment follows those prioritizations. So yeah, the first point is that it's a business transformation. It's called digital transformation, absolutely, but it should be high on the board agenda. It should be someone on the board that has background experience within a transformation. If they don't, then that board's going to struggle. Yeah,
and quite often you don't see it, do you? The focus is often on legal, finance, operations, but not necessarily transformation when they're actually targeting or recruiting new board members. But
absolutely, and I think one of the misses over the many years is that the IT guy, girl, has certainly had the keys to transformation, because they've had the keys to what is the most significant budget, which is IT. It's all been about smoke and mirrors. Let's invest in this particular platform or technology or whatever that might look like, without involving the rest of the business. And typically, a CEO will come to me and say, "Listen, we've spent 1 million or 100,000 or whatever it might be on this particular software product. Is it any good?"
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a very open question asked. Sort of, is it any good? How's it going to impact upon the business?
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, I think the agenda of transformation should be very high on board and management, and you need to really think about what that does impact the business.
And should that continually be on the agenda, or is it is it more prevalent at the moment, given the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic known as I call it VID? Is it more prevalent now, or should it constantly be considered in terms of continual transformation?
Absolutely, continual. It has to be.
Yeah, there's two answers to your question, and I'll surface up. The first answer was I hosted the Sun Super Board in Boston, and we were going through what's happening in the transformation market in the retail market to try and give them parallel thinking. And the chairman of the board said to me, "Okay, we've invested X amount of dollars. When is it going to finish?"
Yeah,
it was a really wonderful moment. I said, "Well, it's not. It's actually not going to finish. It's going to continue on a reinvesting model, because the consumer in the marketplace is driving that agenda.
Yes.
So in answer to your question, kind of it's the consumer's driving the agenda. Businesses are trying to keep pace with the consumer. We've got so much Amazon out there. I was talking about Netflix earlier. There's so many brands that are surfacing up incredible experience. So how do businesses keep up with that? And that's the trick.
Yeah. But there's been a lot of change. I mean, you talk about Netflix, Amazon, and everything. There's all these Airbnb and stuff, which have moved away from the traditional large corporates that hold assets to effectively transferring assets to the people they're actually servicing, isn't it? So
absolutely. And one of the areas that we should think about is societal change. You talked about COVID. There's some significant change within society, working from home, wellness, health, etc. So those fundamentals are impacted on business as part of a transformation program of work.
Yeah. If everyone jumps in the chat as we're going along too, and just talk about, are you thinking about transformation yourself or for your clients? And it should definitely be a topic. I know our really progressive accountants and are all LightYear Doc members, and and it's not all about, you should be considering this on your monthly and quarterly meeting discussions with your clients in relation to it. Shouldn't just be about financials, risk, structure, or anything like that. You start talking about these clients, you suddenly become in effect another board member or a CFO or COO type position, and you're adding a lot more value to clients as well. So what sort of investment should be considered when you're looking at a transformation, digital transformation? Obviously it's to do with size of business, industry they're in, and
Well, I guess it gets down to, and certainly Philippa can jump in here. It's about, what do you want to transform? Is it a sales process? Is it certainly a website investment? Do the legacy systems within the business need to be revamped?
Yes.
Do they need a new enterprise platform? What is it that actually needs to be transformed? I sat with Lloyds Bank at the very beginning of their transformation journey to establish what they wanted to look at transformation. And it was like, let's transform the whole of this bank. Well, that's okay. And that's a huge investment. It was 800-900 million pounds over a 5-year period. But what their first tranche of work was time to cash.
Yes.
The marketplace was beating them on growth within that mortgage area. And the reason is because Lloyds Bank had a policy in place, a compliance policy in place, which is about, you had to have valuation of your property no greater than 3 months. So it really restricted people in the marketplace, because you just can't get a valuation that quickly. So their time to cash at Lloyds Bank was something like 6 or 7 weeks.
Yes. Yeah.
The competition were sort of at 2 weeks. So we talked to the compliance people about how do we change that, and they said, well, we can change it automatically. We'll just change it straight away to 6 months.
We just change our process.
It happened in 5 minutes. So it wasn't about marketing. It wasn't about sales. What is the transformation agenda? So when you ask the question, what's the investment required? It's what's the appetite to change? What are the prioritizations thereof?
And also, what's the value proposition? I think the one thing about investment is, if it's going to increase efficiency, if it's going to change operations, it's not just about digital transformation, it's a whole of business shift. So you can end up saving money in the end by doing it right the first time, or phasing it out in the right process. So I think,
absolutely.
And delivering what the customer actually wants as well too. So
and at scale as you grow. So
if I look at one of the clients that I think are outstanding, well, not a client, but certainly I'd love to be a client, was the Atlassian group.
Yes. Yeah.
Their product range. One day I looked and went, my God, we actually use these products and I love them. So there's a business that has providing a transformation within an organization through their product. Some amazing products in there. So once you set your agenda, and as Philippa said, what's the value to the business, and then prioritize that value, and what are the small wins, what are the great wins? Absolutely. If your clients out there, Michael, have got infinite budget to do a transformation, you can achieve a lot. You need a robust team, really from an internal, external point of view, but you can actually make a significant transformation change in a very short time. But if you don't prioritize that change, you're going to waste money.
Yeah.
Wasting money is certainly not the behest of many clients.
Not giving you the best return.
And it actually is something that clients have had a regular experience with wastage. So it is about making sure we've got that structure and that strategy up front.
Yeah.
So when you do phase it out, it makes sense.
And the strategy is so important, isn't it? I mean, I talked about the slapstick approach before, and people think that I'm going to start just posting some stuff on social, or I'm going to start I'm going to do a website, and everyone's going to come to me, and it's not correct and accurate, is it? That's necessarily going to happen. Yeah, it can. You might. And is that more luck, or is it?
I think it depends on the situation, the industry, and the client and the product.
Yes.
But I think looking at it holistically, taking a step back, and really that's what external partners are amazing, like Claxon, not to talk about ourselves too much, but that's exactly what we do. Well, we can.
Of course, right. Why wouldn't you?
But, yeah, absolutely. I think it's some of the issues we've had clients coming to at the moment is focus entirely too much on one channel, for example, within paid, if we're talking about media specifically. There's too much reliance on one. So when you try to diversify, it's the first place you need to do that, because the channel obviously becomes less effective the more money you spend in it in some instances. So that's, I guess, where we come in terms of reviewing everything from a holistic perspective, developing a strategy that aligns with those goals, and making sure everything kind of functions the way it should. That's kind of aligning with what the business needs.
And do you try to get involved as much as possible with the clients and their business? I mean, I know I've heard Jake speak before and talk to clients and say, and they've been out in brand shoots and stuff, things like that. And he said, we really need to be aware of when you're doing those things and be part of that whole story to get the most.
Partnerships are critical, Michael. If you don't have a very open, transparent partnership, then you're expecting your agency to do a lot more, but not informing them
of what is happening.
The more transparency, the better.
But one of the areas that is often missed within that conversation is the area of compliance and governance.
Yes.
I think as a director like you are and I am, you need to ensure that you bring that to the table as well.
Yeah, 100%.
So yes, having an open, transparent conversation with your agency or your partners, and in your case, with the people on this call, it's certainly about with their clients. And if the more open, transparent conversation, the better the results and certainly decision making. Yeah,
100%. And Philip will attest to this. When LightYear had their first discovery thing, I was really pushed that to Ash and the team that, it's really important that we involve them, even with the developers on some of the calls when we get down to that, just so that we're all on board in relation to the message that we're trying to deliver and how we deliver it, and getting input from everyone in terms of how that is. So.
Absolutely. More information, the better.
Yeah, correct. What do you see as the key impact on businesses who want to digitally transform, and what if they don't?
Well, once again, if you've got to start, what is it they want to transform? I think that's probably the key, and then who's going to transform it and how they're going to do it. Kind of it's a pretty simple linear process. So what is to be transformed will be impact upon the business. If I want to obviously grow my sales channel, then certainly there's a transformation agenda there. If it's more about how I evolve my business into new markets, well, there's a transformation agenda there. So the what is really important. The how you go about it is equally as important, and that takes into account a lot of the whole of business approach.
Yes.
I think the transformation programs, we'll talk about what hasn't worked a bit later, Michael, but I've found that the transformation programs that haven't worked haven't involved HR, for example, haven't involved legal, haven't involved sales, and haven't involved the call center. And all of a sudden, there's a transformation agenda in a business, whether it be small or large, and not everyone's got buy-in, because they're going, well, hang on, that's the marketing guys, or that's the IT guys. That doesn't necessarily work. So the impact of the business can be quite significant, but once you understand what it is you want to transform, and then you can put some metrics around that, a time frame around that, and really understand what the investment's required to get there. Then you can start to put some milestones in place and continue to review. I've seen, and I'm sure Philip has seen, some wonderful transformation agendas or blueprints or journey maps, which get put up on the wall, and the CEO goes, "Here's my transformation," but no one really validates it. Your field in particular, from an accounting point of view, you need to continue to validate your investment. To make sure your ROIs on the back of that is quite succinct.
Yeah, it's a bit like visions and strategies and culture, isn't it? I mean, people. I've been in large corporates, which you have as well, and even smaller business where they think there's a great culture, or they think they've got the culture right, and they put it up on the wall. And generally, it's a lot of the time it's been a top-down approach where they've developed this culture or this vision, and no one's really actually has bought into. They think people have bought into it. But when you get down to the granular level and speak to different levels within the organisation, it's actually not as it seems.
Absolutely. And what I see is that if I think about front of house, back of house. Okay. So the front of house is the experience that your customer is getting from you, whether it be a B2B or B2C. So that sort of whole front of house effect, which is marketing. And typically in a transformation program, people sit there and go, oh, that's the marketing guys. They are on a different agenda. The back of the house is critically as important. We're around compliance, operations, surfacing up all the aspects of business, HR, skill sets, etc. So if you think about that front of house and back of house and how it's a sort of a more of an enterprise approach to business, end to end as such, that's got to be the key agenda and how you can transform and impact a business.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my big, pieces of experience is making sure that all internal people are aligned within the business and taking them on the journey to make sure that when the business transforms and presents that vision and strategy, it all makes sense and everyone's invested in the success of that as well, because that will absolutely have an impact on that external transformation as well.
The scary thing, Michael, sorry to interrupt you there. The scary thing about transformation is that it automatically gets dumped into the IT. Well, that's an IT thing. And of course, then the lights go on for the accountant or the finance director is, what's this going to cost?
Yeah.
So, often transformation programs are mistakenly led from a technology point of view. It shouldn't be. It's what's the business want to achieve? What's the solution required? The technology will support and implement it.
And often they can be cut off by, I guess, the finance department and the finance talking to when there hasn't been appropriate alignment and there hasn't been proper input and value creation happened across the whole organisation because you haven't gone through the whole process and it hasn't really been given any air. It's been sort of cut off or strangled, hasn't it? And
absolutely.
So yeah,
if you don't have a multi sort of disciplined approach. From a team perspective, you're not going to get total buy-in.
Yeah. Someone
must represent each department. As I said earlier, it's got to be legal as well. Legal tend to have the final say in most transformation programs. If they're not involved up front, you can be completely cut off at the knees at the final hurdle. And same with compliance. But from a finance point of view, if there's a clear direction of what the investment's going to be and the outcome and there are checks in place along the way, you get much greater buy-in from the finance department.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I'm not beating LightYear's chest or anything because it is a smaller team, so it is easier. But they utilize Slack, and we are there is one particular open channel on there, which is the support channel. Maybe it's not called the right thing. It's a Manila support channel, but it's actually effectively is the whole business. So it's Australia and the Philippines team, but we share everything and they've been involved with this whole journey to LightYear Docs 2.0 and seeing the branding. And I'm sure Laura will jump on the chat and on Noosa and mention it as well. The whole team is seeing what's happening. They have input into it. We discuss it. They have a 9:30 huddle each day. I know you guys have a great huddle as well, slightly different huddle, but equally, they both are very valuable. And we and it's discussed and it's a very open environment, and I think it really does work. So
yeah, well, that's a classic case. Slack channels are brilliant because they provide that degree of transparency and openness. And once again, it's not just 2 or 3 people on the Slack channel, it's everyone. Everyone's involved in the project as such. And it can be small, it could be 1 or 2 people, sure. It can be 50 people, but the Slack channel will provide a constant iteration of what's going on.
Yes.
That's the beauty of any transformation program or any business transformation or any business involvement. It's about how you continue to review.
Yeah, you don't want that seclusion, do you? So, well, I mean, we touched on board members and stuff, but who should lead digital transformation and client structure, and how can accountants and advisors play a role? And I sort of touched on it there. I think it can be an agenda item with clients, and it should be, and it's really a proactive thing. I really keep pushing, and part of these partner solutions is actually the accountant becoming a more proactive role in their client's journey and their effective their life and stuff. So, and this is a thing that they can actually table and bring experts in, such as Clarkson, for those discussions as well.
Yeah, look, I think gone are the days when the finance guys, the accountants are down the back room.
That's right. Let's lock them around.
I think there's a crucial role, and the same as I talked about with legal before, that surfacing up a hybrid team is really crucial, but you need an evangelist. And as I said, we'll start with the board, someone on the board who understands transformation, and there's an agenda there. if you have a CEO can walk the walk and understand, once again, transformation, what needs to be prioritization, investment required, and you bring everyone on the journey. But the hybrid team is crucial. And that also is something that I've discovered there's a miss within that, and that is, who's the cultural evangelist within an organization that understands what is going to happen on the business, what's going to happen to individual within the business who may not have the skill sets to be involved.
Yes.
How do we train them up? How do we keep them involved? So there are a lot of issues around it. But look, the answer to your question is you need a hybrid team that represents the whole of business. Otherwise, you don't get buy-in. As I said previously, someone will say, well, I'm not involved in that, so therefore I'm not involved in the transformation. You know, the famous JFK scenario back at in Cape Canaveral, where he was talking about getting a man on the moon, and he walked around Cape Canaveral when he came across a janitor. He asked him, what do you do here? He said, well, I'm helping to put a man on the moon. You know, it's a classic story, but the story relates to transformation. Like, if everyone's not involved, then no one's involved.
You got complete buy-in then, haven't you?
That's what it is.
This isn't about leadership, but I believe in making sure you've also got the advocates that can essentially influence whole of business as well. So it's a positive experience. By the time you get to that essentially wow moment, it's not really a wow moment anymore.
Yeah. Once you're on put that first step on the moon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone should already know that that's happening.
That's
Everyone should kind of understand it in its entirety, and then it's just a celebration.
Yes.
So I think that's something that I really believe in. That leadership is also about developing that hybrid team and making sure that we have all those people part of that.
Yeah.
I think the last part of your question, how can accountants and advisors be involved? Well, they should be involved. And I think they've got to put their hand up, because there's a financial impost upon any business to do transformation. But if they're not understanding of what the transformation is going to lead to, and ROIs that I've talked about, then you're not going to get buy-in. And it becomes then a cost to business rather than a value to the business.
Yeah.
And how do you change that paradigm from a cost to a value? If you don't involve consultants or the advisors up front in your hybrid team, especially accountants, you're not going to get the buy-in that you need.
Yeah,
it's crucial.
And I think one thing that's interesting, when I worked client side for a little while, and I'd love to have your opinion on this, Stephen, but just where the budget should come from for a digital transformation is a really interesting conversation. Does it come from ops? Does it come from marketing? I mean, marketing is always slapped with the spending too much in marketing, but it's actually a much bigger picture, and it has an impact on every single department. So that's something that having that conversation and having that buy-in from the hybrid team and making sure that they understand that it's not a marketing cost. It's a whole of business value.
One of the examples I'll talk about, and that's a really good point. One of the examples I will talk about a bit later, Inland Revenue New Zealand. The first thing I did was I went and had a conversation with the procurement department. So the head of procurement, to understand what they need from a business point of view. Now, of course, it's a bigger client. There's no question about that. But procurement in itself it can be an impediment to transformation, because the business case gets surfaced up, goes to the board, gets approved, and gets handed to procurement, and then there's a delay.
Yes. Yeah.
The expectation of a time frame of transformation, obviously, from the board is like it should happen tomorrow, but the procurement can hold up for weeks, if not months. So as I talked about hybrid teams, we involved procurement. We understood what they need from a business point of view, and we aligned. Yeah. So therefore, you're accelerating, working through a transformation which is well thought through.
Yeah. There's a question that one of the people and they just said, what about some services and strategies for sole traders, mum and dad businesses, and where they're at now and transforming and things like that. So. Yeah, I mean, obviously they don't have the big budgets or spends to do, but it's still is relevant to them to even be thinking about it and talking about it. And
I think there's really great learnings. Certainly, the insights and learnings that are happening within the marketplace can certainly cascade down to small business, actually mums and dads. And I've spoken to a lot of friends of mine who've got small business. So the transformation agenda is, what do you want to transform?
Yeah.
Okay. If it's a simple process of I need a better website or I need a bit of e-commerce basket on my website, it could be like, I'm going to move the basket from this part to this point.
Yes.
So transformation is not just the big holistic programs of millions of dollars. Whilst I love them personally, but it does subscribe down to smaller businesses as well. More than happy to chat to people in that regard as well.
It can be making small changes, can it?
Yeah,
As
absolutely.
well. So it's not.
Yeah, it could be a distribution, it could be a small change. And then automation, AI are not expensive things, but they can make a huge difference to business.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a simple landing page that takes them away from rebuilding a site that makes sure we can drive leads or drive our media to a place that's going to convert. It could be really, really simple elements that don't necessarily mean a huge investment, but it's a phased strategic approach to get that business to that next phase that can then potentially invest in strat. So I think it is, I'm used to working on businesses of all sizes. So very much, how do we apply the same thinking to a smaller business?
If you approach it the same way, and this is, we'll talk about Claxon again, sales product, but it's about ROI. It's about making sure that the investment, there's a small investment or large, has an outcome.
Yeah,
we are held to that on a daily basis by our clients. It's about growth. So therefore, if you're investing $1 or $1 million, there's got to be an ROI in the back of it and an expectation thereof. So it's what we work on a daily basis. That's what the exciting part about our business is.
Yeah, and it's interesting you're saying, Philip, but then one of the big things, like obviously when we had a look at the review of a couple of businesses that I'm involved in, like I Love Accounting and stuff, is that we sort of had the team here looked at the website and stuff and said it's very difficult to understand what you're offering and everything, even though it's all on there. And so they created a landing page, and all of a sudden, bang, 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 we started getting leads through just from the landing page. And I thought, our website's great. And when I looked at it, I thought it was great. And it's just about the bit of clarity and actually getting exactly to the point, and then leading them to how to make contact exactly. Even though we had a contact section and a contact page, it's just it's just a more deliberate and direct approach.
It's more of a user experience approach.
Kind of
customer centric.
We all go on websites. We go to buy stuff, and I don't know about you or your clients, but I get seriously frustrated if I can't get to what I want to get to as quick as I can. So what's the architecture of that site look like? So when you talk about small businesses, it's, as Philip quite rightly said, sometimes it's a small tweak that can just make a bit of a difference. But if you don't sort of look at it from a user experience, it's sort of a custom experience, and a look and feel of the site, and look and feel of the images is all fantastic. But it's the usability that can often bring you undone.
Absolutely. And what does the customer want? Like, they want their answer straight away. So if you're searching for something specific, you want exactly what you're looking for. So what landing pages do is provide that information in a very small bite-sized piece that they can digest and go, yes, that's exactly what I want and what I'm interested in, or they bounce and leave. So websites generally don't allow, they usually allow a bigger picture. It's typically business-centric, not customer-centric specifically. So I guess we can kind of look at that whole holistic look and feel and break down the communication and how we're going to drive people through what we call a funnel.
Well, and it's amazing too. I mean, you think about the lead I was talking about that came through on Sunday, and obviously I'm not going to name any names or anything, but I've had a couple of meetings with them now, and we're talking about a $100 million turnover business whose external advisors are their top 4 accounting firms, and just purely from that leading page, he's got exactly was looking for an employee share scheme, employee shares, and he's got the message straight away, and it's been quick, bang, send it through. And you would never in your wildest dreams expect that a lead like that would have come through that way, would you?
No, absolutely.
But that's what we do for a living. So yes, we do.
You do, yeah, no, 100%. You do. You do expect it, but I would never have. I almost fell off my chair. So
we'll get that name off eventually.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is really interesting in the marketplace, Michael, I'm not sort of digressing for a sec, is the QR codes. 5 years ago, the industry moved away from QR codes because they weren't sexy anymore. And I did some work, we did a lot of work with Bunnings, and they looked at China and saw that QR codes were surfacing quite quickly. So putting QR codes on product helped consumers get to a quicker sort of decision-making process. Now we have an app for COVID, which is a QR code, and everyone's using it.
Yeah,
so that fundamentally is a change within the industry, a transformation in itself. You know, I was watching some older ladies the other day walk into a coffee shop, and bang, they've got their phones up and they're doing the QR codes and checking in. It's fantastic. So that whole area of transformation is, I think, quite exciting.
It is, yeah. QR codes just blow my mind, because I remember when they first came out, and no one would. It was almost a disaster, really.
Absolutely.
And now everyone. So what are the top line impediments to transformation?
I think from my perspective, we've covered it a lot, but it really is the buy-in of the board, buy-in of the management, buy-in of the people involved, the stakeholders, and not having an investment. I talked about Lloyd's Bank before. The drama I see with most businesses, it's probably the mid-sized businesses and above, is that they surface up a business case. Say, okay, here's a business case to do this part of transformation. Then they do that. And then they go, okay, we'll surface up another business case. And typically the lag time between those business cases can be quite significant. What I see as better is that, okay, what are we going to transform from a business holistically? And then what cost prioritization thereof. So if you're not prioritizing what you want to transformation, putting a time frame against that and investment overall, then you're not going to really achieve transformation. You can do it piecemeal each time. But understanding what that roadmap is, and like everything in business, like a business plan, isn't it? You write a business plan, and then do you re-look at it during the year? Absolutely. You should be reviewing it all the time. Markets change. We've got a lot of COVID's changing a lot of things at the moment. So the impediments is alignment of a team to start with, making sure your CEO, and it's a bigger business, of course. And if it's a smaller business, make sure mum and dad are both aligned to what they want to achieve. And then, of course, make sure all the key stakeholders within the organization are involved in that. You know, I talked about before, legal, compliance. Everyone needs to have fingerprints on the transformation program, otherwise it's not going to happen. Having an evangelist timeline, understanding the timeline. So the impediments are really surfacing up what's the agenda overall. And then making sure everyone has buy-in and everyone understands the time frame. And of course, time frames change. COVID's dictated that we need to accelerate. You know, gin companies turning into hand sanitization companies.
It's crazy, wasn't it? Ordered some of that myself.
It's not a fixed agenda transformation, but if you have a whole of business and agile team involved in that transformation, you're going to achieve a lot more quicker, probably more effectively and efficiently from a cost point of view. But don't forget, as I said, there's the other impediment that I'm seeing is lack of accountability, not accountant, but accountability. People who are going to actually be accountable to be part of that transformation, that they have to achieve certain things within a time frame. Otherwise, you're losing that momentum.
And what happens is typically in a digital transformation project is people leave, people within the business leave during that time. So it's someone like us, the external, that continues throughout that process. Then you've got different people. So you do need that hybrid team that's got buy-in, because if someone leaves, then it's not disturbed in a great significant way. The one thing that I'd like to touch on is just perception of cost versus final value of what you actually end up delivering, because cost can obviously look quite large if you're looking at a large project like Stephen's been talking about, but the actual overall value again is can be infinite, particularly if you create something that's built for the future of the business, not what the business needs at that particular moment in time.
Good point. Transformation can be about protection of the business. Quite a few interesting examples. So, it doesn't necessarily mean about growth from a financial point of view. It could be about protecting the business from future loss. So there's a number of agenda items that need to be certainly agreed to before you start the process.
Because it'd be interesting what Airbnb is going through at the moment. I mean, they were for use of better term, were killing it, really, weren't they? And all of a sudden, COVID has almost disrupted and destroyed their whole marketplace because people can't travel. We've got Queensland and New South Wales border closures. I know I was meant to go to Newcastle about now for the Australian hockey titles. Actually, right now, I should be there playing Australian Master hockey titles. And I went, and it was very, I'd made a booking with Airbnb, and the get out clause was about 50%, and we were going to have to pay. And she's now the host has now come back and said, look, has actually refunded the whole amount, which have been quite fortunate. And I actually went to her and said, look, I understand you're out of pocket and but I can't get there. And I said, so I don't expect not to pay anything, and I'm happy to pay you something, but I think 50% is crazy. But she actually went and wiped the whole thing, which was fantastic and lucky for myself. But it must be so hard for the Airbnb host now, and a lot of people that went into that market because of how good Airbnb were, and actually went out and bought properties, and they weren't getting them managed by property managers on permanent rentals. They're actually using it because they were making so much money out of Airbnb.
Absolutely. And there's a lovely disruptor that's happened marketplace, and it was an IPO recently, you would have seen, Michael, which is basically, the frustration is when you buy something online or Airbnb, it's the refund of your money. And what I can't understand is if I paid today and then, of course, if I cancel tomorrow, I get this note to say, well, you get your money back within 10 days. And I finally go, well, hang on a second. Now, for a lot of people that don't have a lot of money, that 10-day lag time is quite considerable pressure on business.
Can't book another holiday, can't do a lot of things.
So fintech's done the launch, which is basically they will refund the money within 2 hours, I think it is.
Okay.
And they'll go back to the merchant and get their money back out of that. So there's an interesting disruptor.
Yeah, it is.
So I thought that was quite intuitive. And that's what I think these transformation programs or marketplace will surface up as opportunities in those spaces.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was actually, this is, I guess, kind of disruptive, but I was I'm looking at new commercial space at the moment on the Gold Coast, and there's absolutely nothing, which was somewhat of a shock to me, given probably not in Queensland because we've been insulated, luckily enough, and I hate to rub that into all of our viewers who are in lockdown at the moment still, and some have been in Victoria a long time. But the commercial property on the coast it's so thin at the moment. It's not. But I was also speaking to a client in Melbourne earlier this morning who said similar in relation to some of the stuff we were looking at, because I had the vibrant of it and how it's structured and set out. We're going to acquire two of those side by side and actually change the whole pristine office environment and have a pretty funky quite setup. But they've been like, I spoke to someone on Monday and there was 8 of them left. So look, I'm happy to enter into a contract. We will. And, in Melbourne, apparently, same thing's happening. These man cave type things or person caves. We should say, working from home, but home's not quite enough big enough, so they're being built and snapped up left, right, and centre. He goes, in the CBD, 50 man caves, they can't build them fast enough.
Wow.
And
like a pop-up.
Pop-up. Yeah, so that's a bit of a disruptor in that
Wow.
space as well, isn't it? So, yeah.
So that's a classic case of, if you're involved in that, how do you transform your business into a pop-up store? I think these are the questions.
So the word platform is getting a lot of mentions. What does this refer to?
Look, this is the unbelievable question that keeps asked. We need to set up a platform. Well, what are the likes of Adobe and certainly Sitecore or Kentico are really good base platforms to work with. Platform can be a bit digital platform that you build CRMs on top of, and what the buzzword platform as such.
Yes.
A platform for growth, and then of course what that platform looks like. It's not just the technology part of the business, but certainly it can be the front of house part of the business, can be the back of house. So, I think the most obvious platforms around at the moment are Amazon.
Yep.
It's so you could buy and sell on on an Amazon platform. Netflix, Stan, these are all streaming platforms. They're gathering data about you and then surfacing up opportunities and products thereof.
I see event cinemas now. You can actually stream the latest kind of what suicide. Just that hopefully back.
Hi everyone. I can see that the internet has just dropped out on the studio end. They're looking into it right now. Just bear with us for a minute, and I'll let you know what's happening. All right, thank you.
And on top of that, we built an AI interface. And the AI interface was built on ontology. Ontology is word association. I'm not going to go too much into a technology conversation here, but ontology is about, for example, orange and juice. Orange and juice have a word association.
Yep.
So therefore, the algorithm that surfaced up provides a much easier response. So if you think about tax, and Australian tax is no different, there are big repositories of information.
Yep.
Could be GST, could be student loans, could be audit, whatever it might be. Ontology, the AI interface, pulls out keywords. So
Yes.
if I'm a citizen in New Zealand, and Shame's here in Australia, or a tax agent, and I type in on the Australian taxation website, or for my example, Inland Revenue, it'll pull out the keywords from those repositories. So it makes the user, we talked about a user experience earlier, much more simplistic. Now, during COVID, when COVID hit, we said to Inland Revenue, had 1,400 people in the call center.
Yep.
And the wait time was 2, 3, 4 hours, especially for Social Security. Why don't you use this AI and bring it forward and surface it up? And they did. Call center experienced a much less wait time, and it became a more efficiency for citizens and internally at Inland Revenue. Now that sort of is a really successful transformation program.
Yep.
It was driven by the Commissioner of Taxation.
Yes.
It formed a team, a hybrid team internally. We were part of that team. We had pretty well daily stand-ups. Within that team was everyone from compliance to legal to marketing to everyone. We went out to marketplace and interviewed a lot of tax agents to understand what their needs were.
Yes.
And as you can see, the whole roadmap and the whole process, and we then had buy-in from each of the political parties. So the transformation was over a 5 to 7 year period. A lot of money without question, but it really gave citizens of New Zealand a much better experience, and tax agents and students. So I think from what I'm seeing from the Australian Taxation Office, they're looking at it at length.
Yeah, they are. They're certainly starting to make improvements in that space. They seem to take go a step forward and about 3 steps back, but they are definitely working and investing a lot of money. They've come a long way. I mean, I know there's been a lot of complaints in relation to especially the tax agent portal and everything, but it's certainly a lot further advanced than where it definitely was.
Well, your question earlier to me about who should be leading transformation. Well, everyone on this call has the opportunity to put forward what they need. The Australian Taxation Office, I don't know what the platform is to do that, but or the voice to do it, but get in now. And I think if you guys don't drive that agenda, then the outcome will be not what you want. No. This is the whole thing about transformation: is what is the consumer experience or the front of house experience, and what's the back of house. So the back of house Australian Taxation Office are going to do it their way.
Yes.
But what is it you need for your clients to drive a better outcome?
Yeah, I mean, they certainly listen to industry associations such as the Institute of Chartered Accountants and the CPAs and everything, and they take reference to that. But I do see that there is opportunity for all their members and everything to lobby towards that. But it's exactly what you said. A lot of people don't. Then they sit back and then they complain after the fact.
Absolutely, the SMEs, and you asked a question earlier about one of the questions that came through about small business.
Yep,
they should be the driver of a lot of the outcomes. That's the research that needs to be done in any transformation program. If you don't look at all voices and try and aggregate that together into an agenda, then it's not going to succeed.
Yeah.
Do you have an example?
Yeah, I'm conscious of time, but mine's in the financial space. So one of my long-term clients at McCann, obviously creative agency, fundamentally was Auswide Bank.
Yes.
So Australia's 10th bank, probably Australia's smallest bank at the time as well. But we were briefed to come up with a creative campaign to essentially position them as Australia's 10th bank. Obviously, they'd been a building society for over 50 years. But one of the biggest challenges was their customers were aging. So most of their customers were 65 plus,
Yes.
mostly in Far North Queensland. They were looking to come Australia-wide. That's why they renamed it Auswide. But their current customer base wasn't actually engaging in their home loan products. So no one was purchasing homes in that particular bracket, and they couldn't diversify. Millennials didn't align with their business or their brand. So they were pretty much going to anyone else. So what we had to do was really define who they were, discover what the problem was. And one of the interesting parts about the board specifically for Auswide is they wanted to compete with the big four. But the biggest difference with Auswide was their customer service was amazing. Their one-on-one, you could have a one-on-one conversation with anyone within the bank, but some of the biggest challenges to overcome was their technology wasn't up to speed. So giving people and millennials a reason to engage with Auswide was more important than the actual products and the services that they provided from a tech point of view. So it was redefining who they were, why they existed, and we created what was a brand platform for them that then could filter out between how they talked about themselves externally, but also how that then worked from even down to HR values. What does the business mean to the people that work there?
Yes.
The actual marketing manager ended up presenting that across every single branch, and pretty much to tears, because they were so invested and they finally understood who they worked for, why they worked there. And that's the kind of impact that we like to have. Is it's beyond just the output that we've been commissioned to do. And I'll take you back to, I guess, what I mentioned earlier about a brief that we might receive. It might not be what we actually end up producing.
Yeah.
It might be something, much bigger that has a bigger impact on more facets than just a website, for example.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, James has just made a comment, and one person listening, we did lose a couple of minutes there. We did have a bit of internet. I think people jumped out, missed a bit where we were talking about Airbnb, and then it went into inland revenue and tax. So tax is a boring subject anyhow, Stephen, so apologies, but we're happy to reach out and provide some more. And I'm conscious, as Philip has said, of time. So we are running out of time in relation to some of the question stuff. But James has said one way of determining the drive for digitization is to ask what makes the customer experience better. And I think we have addressed that quite well today. So
it just can't be just customer experience. That's a really good point, but it's also about what's the outcome of that experience.
Yes.
I might go on a website and say, wow, that's really cool, great customer experience, but I'm not buying anything.
No.
So it's also user experience.
Yeah, because everyone, the big thing at the moment is CX, isn't it? And
CX, UX, UI.
Yeah, that's right.
Buzzwords.
A couple of acronyms.
That's right. More acronyms.
Yeah.
So, I mean, rather than keep jumping through some of the questions, someone said, James said, use big data, AI to search available data to inform the key customer touch points and hence the key points of RUB from end to end. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, the use of data is probably underused.
Yes.
There's no question about that. It's a really, everyone's saying it's the new oil, absolutely, but the data storage and whether put in, this is the whole platform thing, whether you put a data lake in to store your data and then how you surface up that data. I think the airlines used to do it well. I know when I was looking at a flight you mentioned earlier, if I wanted to book a flight on with Qantas to Adelaide, next time when I'm outside, it surfaced up that another opportunity to go to Adelaide. Then it said, here's a hotel, here's a car hire. So certainly the use of data is quite critical.
Yes.
Then there's the issue of privacy. And that's coming at such a pace.
Yeah,
and it's, how you're going to use my data. I don't mind you using my data, but reward me for it.
Well, the research says, oh my God, I can't talk. If you're giving them making your life easier and more efficient, then everyone will give up their data. But otherwise, if there's no purpose and it's just literally taking my information and on-selling it, then it's of no value to you.
Yeah, and you can see how it can be detrimental too sometimes. And this is just a little small example. My car is in with Mercedes at the moment. Apparently, there's a fundamental issue with it, which did not sound good when that went in 3 days ago.
Yeah.
But I haven't got it back. So I actually drove our business partner's car here today. But he said to me, I'm going to get some KFC on the way home the other night. So, and he's trying to get it on the app, and it was on Tuesday nights, it's 9 for $9.95 or something, 9 pieces of chicken. And, but it's only available on the app, but the app he was putting his card details in, and he was brought up the lights. He goes, "Can you take it?" And because obviously I can't use my phone while I'm driving, and I shouldn't suggest he was doing that. But he gave it to me, and I was putting. And I go, "Look, I'll just try my card. It might be something with your card. You obviously clearly haven't paid for your credit card bill or something." And he said, "There's nothing wrong with the card." So he was getting a bit shirty with me then. So I put mine in, same result. And so he got to KFC. He goes, "I'm just going to be there." And the guy goes, "No, you can only get that on the app by ordering on the KFC app." We've gone, and so he's starting to get shirty at this stage. We've been in the office till late, and he gets up to the counter, and I was trying to calm him down because and the poor young guy's going, and he's going, "Look, I'm trying. It's not working. I want to have my 9 pieces at night." He goes, "I'm going to get my manager." The manager came and said, "You can only order that on the app." And so, and he's going, and the manager then said, "There's clearly something wrong with your card." And he goes, "Okay, well, let's put it through the order." Yeah. And he goes, bang. And it went straight through. He goes, "Well, it's not my card, is it?" So we drive through. So then the AI, Rod got home. AI has come up. He's on Facebook, and bang, was KFC ad come up, and KFC. And so he's clicked on it, and there's about 100, which he's then taken a snapshot and sent it to me. There's at least 150 people are complaining about the same thing about their app and everything. So they've got this intelligent information that's sent through, said you got to put an ad on about KFC, and all of a sudden it's actually got worse and more detrimental to them. So
there's certainly some privacy intrusion issues across the board.
Now people are talking about they want KFC.
Are you on commission for KFC?
Yeah. Well, just before we wrap it up quickly, because obviously we're running out of a bit of time. Stephen, where's Claxon now? Where's Claxon headed? I mean, we're talking about transformation, and it's probably paramount about where is Claxon now and what's going on. So
I think if we talk about the business, there are 2 founders to the business who are really entrepreneurial, but really smart in their thinking, in so much as if we're going to transform, what additional experience and knowledge can we bring into the business? Hence, I guess the reason why I'm here, Philip is here, certainly Ray, who's a new employee, arrived from London. So we have a growth agenda.
Yes.
And I love change and transformation. So I think there's opportunity in the marketplace to really explode independent agency, which is what we are. And we are very focused on return on investment.
Yes.
We have to be. We're a growth agency. And I think our positioning of being heard in the marketplace, being bold.
Yes.
So our growth agenda and our geographical growth is well deformed. We've got a 3-year plan. I'm very comfortable with our 3-year plan. The structure of our team is really good.
Yes.
The opportunity in the marketplace is strong. Our productization is there. So what I'm looking at for the next 3 years to transform this business is not different to what we've been talking about today.
Yeah.
It's getting the team together, understand the transformation agenda. What are the priorities we need to put in place? What's the investment required?
Yes.
We've got a IM in marketplace currently. That's to fuel some of our growth.
Yes.
The business structure itself is very, very solid, but that will help us invest into not only into new products and new people, but more skilling of our people.
Yes.
There's a journey. We'll have a geographical growth agenda, opening up in other markets in the UK, back into the States, certainly on the Eastern Seaboard. So we've planned it out.
Yes.
I'm excited by the opportunity. There's a great journey ahead of us, but like every transformation program, I look at every day of the business pages. What's disrupting business? What can we bring into our business? How can we help our clients in their own transformation?
Yep.
So the agenda and the growth opportunity for Claxon is very strong, and I'm very comfortable with where we're at. From that point of view,
it's great. It's great. I mean, you just mentioned you got an IM out in the market. If anyone wants to get that, I can certainly distribute it.
KFC with that.
You can get some KFC with the IM, but Claxon's looking. I think they're raising about $2 million. They've got significant interest in applications coming in for that already. But if there is anyone interested, or their clients, and especially where there's synergies in relation to the services and value proposition provided, it really makes sense to me. So reach out, send me an email, and I'm happy to share that amongst everyone. But
I'm happy to have a chat to anyone who's interested in that. I think it's I think understanding what we're doing and understanding where we're going is a sort of crucial point.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll obviously, we've got the recording. We'll share those details. We'll share Stephen and Philippa's contact details. And obviously everyone's got my contact details. So Stephen and Philippa, thank you for joining me today. Thanks for your time. You're really giving us a real deep understanding of everything, and especially transformation. And it's not just about digital transformation. It's about the whole business and the involvement in the whole business. And
Pleasure. And
Mm.
buy me some KFC, Michael.
I will. I'm starving now.
I know. I'm a bit hungry myself.
Yeah. I think. Thank you.